Hey everyone, Internet PCS book reader here. Today I want to talk about Death's End by Cixin Liu. Even if my review of the first two books, the prequels in the series, is fairly negative, I like to finish what I started and I really hope this book can actually turn the favor for the series and make me give it a more positive score. Again with a spoiler warning since this is the third and last book in the trilogy. The second book ends with the Dark Forest Veterans, when Luoji sent a message to the universe that there are more aliens in space than just Earthling and the Trisolarian. As a result, Trisolarians cannot openly attack Earth. Just like nuclear deterrence, no one is making an attack because everyone knows the consequences of retaliation. The story then opens up at the fall of Constantinople, where we are introduced to magic through the short prologue of Helena and the Emperor. It will make sense much later in the story. We also finally got the perspective of Yang Dong, Yang Wenji's doctor in the first book, one of the physicists who took their own life and Wang Yao's secret crush. We are given a little bit more context to her last decision, so her fate didn't just end up in a plot hole and her tragic fate makes more sense, which I think is nicely done even if it didn't really explain the other scientists with the same fate as her. And that is how the book will spend the early part of the third book, back to 200 years ago, at the start of the space crisis, closing plot holes and answering some unresolved plot, and at the same time giving more context into the world and the story, which I think is a great start to the last book of the series. The story then alternates between Tianming, a dying rich man who had a crush on Cheng Xin, an aerospace engineer, an actual rocket scientist, and Cheng Xin herself, who is working on a project to launch a person directly to the Trisolarian. The scenes have so much forced melodrama, you can hear the loud sad music playing when you read it. It also includes some face-slapping debate out of nowhere and about 30 pages of flashback, but it scene never went for far too long with the melodrama and gave enough world building for us to care about the world and the characters. This opening also made Cheng Xin into the only main character that finally had a compelling reason to be where she is. Wang Miao and Luoji from the prequels are mostly in their position because the plot of the book placed them there. Besides that, there's no really compelling reason for them to be the main character or to stay. But in the intro to the character, Cheng Xin made a decision to send the dying Tianming into space alone, and that regret is what made her stay and eventually become the main character. The storytelling in this book is most often in short bursts of 3 to 5 pages, and I think the author also did a better job in world building in this book compared to the previous two books. The second book's stupid plots are, of course, carried to this book, but it honestly doesn't really affect the story of this book that much. The most important things that are carried from the Dark Forest is mostly only Luoji's decision that created the Dark Forest Veterans and the existence of the Swordholder, the person that held the gravitational wave that will trigger the broadcast of the Trisolarian location to the universe. It's the only thing that held the Trisolaris from attacking, and the only thing from the second book that matters. Other than that, nothing from the second books are really carried to the third book, so the bad aspect of the prequels don't linger that much. But at this point of the story, Luoji is already too old to still be the swordholder, so the responsibility needs to be inherited by someone else, which is Cheng Xin. We then follow Cheng Xin through humanity's trial and tribulation and through the many eras that we go through in the far future that the book paints for us. The start of the book can be a drag because there are big chunks of it fixing some plot problems that I've mentioned on my previous reviews, but in a book format, I don't think it's possible yet to rewrite what's already been published. So I think it's nice that the author at least tried, and tried really well. And this fix also add more context to the story, so it didn't feel like we're just retracing the same step we've already taken. Well, ideally those problems should be there in the first place, but I think this is the next best thing the author can do. I mean, some of the plot in this book kinda retcon part of the wall phaser concept in the second book, but I think it's for the better because there is no world where the wall phaser execution is a good storytelling. Especially since this book is always clear that leaving the fate of the world to only one person is humanity's fault. It's a stupid idea, not the one person's fault. Which is why the swordholder that is just one person's responsibility is much better in the context of the story compared to 4 wall pacers that are 4 people's responsibility in the prequel. There is improvement in the character writing, but it's still not the best. It can be seen especially when the Veterans era ends, where Cheng Xin not pushing the button is written as the fault of her gender instead of her character, which is a sign of bad character writing. But it is overall still an improvement compared to the first and second book. A little bit of male fantasy element to get in the way of the story a little bit. It's always been there in the series, but The previous books are so bad that it doesn't really matter since there are much worse things writing-wise. But in this third book, besides the Swordholder failure event I just mentioned, there's the Stargift and some other random parts, which even if it's not outright made the story become really bad, will at the very least make parts of the story more one-note, repetitive, and predictable. But as I said, it never got so bad that it ruined the story or anything. But it does part of what makes the romance in the series just sucks. Partly due to how bad the character writing are, especially the prequels, but partly because the romance are mostly just detailing the romanticization of romance instead of creating any chemistry between the character. Because of that, it feels artificial. It's like the story keep on telling you how much these two people are in love with each other instead of showing us. I really wish it feels more natural since all three of the books contain some form of romance in them, and it always took me out of the story like a cheap jump scare each time I encountered them. The author also have a habit of trying to cram more things into the story, which usually ends up making the story often lost their urgency. This last book is helped by the great chapters are in shorter bites, but it still have some of the same problem a little bit. There were an event where the Earth was attacked and the main character have to run away to a space shuttle, but for some reason they had the time to stop for a question and answer with some kids in order to choose which one of them can leave the planet with them in the limited number of seats. Instead of having the story become more dramatic, the tension built from the chaos of the attack was gone in an instant. Meanwhile, the magic thingy was only on the opening of the book and one other part of the book. Then that's it, it's never mentioned before or used again in the story. Which makes it less of a Chekhov's gun but more of a Chekhov's Deus Ex Machina. So this is a small nitpick that is not the author's fault. I don't know what makes the translator Ken Liu did not properly translate the Chinese English name into the equivalent of Romaji of Japanese, because Japanese people and full Chinese name are written in alphabets. The translator, instead of writing, for example, Gao Wei for this guy, wrote it in Chinese character Gao and Wei. Well, I get it's a mixed Chinese English name, but besides characters that stay for a while in the book, like AA, which makes it harder to remember to say the character's name after a few hundred pages, but also makes some pages look absurd like this. It is a small thing and it's not the author's fault, but it does unfortunately add to things that took you out of the story. But even with those flaws, there are so much improvement writing and story-wise. The prequels have parts that are so bad that it straight up ruined most of the books, but that's not the case with this last book. There are many quotes that stick out because of how much easier it is to read compared to the prequels. Here's 3 of my favorite. 1. You still didn't do anything wrong. Love isn't wrong. A single individual cannot destroy a world. If that world was doomed, then it was the result of the efforts of everyone, including those living and those who had already died. 2. Mere resistance is always the result of incredible luck. Such was the case on Earth in the past, and such has always been the case in this cruel universe. But at some point, humanity began to develop the illusion that they're entitled to life, that life can be taken for granted. And 3. Death is the only lighthouse that is always lit. No matter where you sail, ultimately, you must turn towards it. Everything fades in the world, but death endures. Isaac Asimov separates science fiction into 3 categories. The story either highlights the gadget, the adventure, or the social aspect of the future, or a combination of them. The gadget aspect only really got really interesting in this book. Unfortunately, the prequel attempts at over-explaining future gadgets only got in the way of the story, especially due to our own advancement in technology understanding. A lot of them don't age well, like the flying car and wireless battery that gave them flight. Within science fiction, they feel more fiction than science, and it took me out of the story multiple times. The adventure aspect in the prequels are held back by a really bad aspect of the writing. Those also fortunately get much better here. Finally, the social aspect of the sci-fi, which I think is only really fully utilized here. The depiction of the change in beauty standard and moral, the effect of deep space travel, and a more in-depth look to the effect of hibernation to society, etc. There are still little flaws, like how at one point in the book, all humans on Earth was stripped naked and forced to live in Australia. And somehow the only crime was just murder. I'm not saying murder is not bad, but we definitely will do other more degenerate things, if you know what I mean. I think if the author implement those, the story will become more believable, but that's just a small nitpick in the grand scheme of the story. And that's the whole thing. The series is honestly a complicated mess to review. The first book written in 2006 have the worst character writing in this whole series, and the second book written in 2008 have the worst plot in the whole series. It is only the third book written in 2010 that shows a lot of great writing, and I actually had a good time reading it. I still stand by what I said and my score for the first two books, but I'm not gonna lie that reading how the series show the author improvement is quite fun on its own. As a trilogy of books, it's hard for me to recommend the series because it's kinda absurd to say wait until after 800 pages it gets better. I think reading One Piece until it shows how good it can be is much easier. But while the series has a lot of flaws, the third book at least gave me a lot of hope for its adaptation. I hope what I just said didn't age badly. I give this a 3.5. What do you think? Are you gonna read it? Did I miss anything? Leave your thoughts in the comment below and subscribe to the channel. Let's support it.